Hard Brexit, soft Brexit, deal, no deal Brexit. It's all getting a bit tiresome, this. To be fair, it's getting bloody boring. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of Brexit, but what I do know about it is this. The referendum has come about 4 or 5 years too early for the left, and Brexit has happened about 20 years too late for the right. Because after years and years of liberalism being forced upon us in our schools and colleges, in the workplaces, especially worryingly in government, and basically in society in general, the left has felt that they'd soften the country up enough to swing this vote. So, in their arrogance that basically made them refuse to believe there was any possibility of defeat. In that arrogance, they allowed the vote, and basically they were wrong and they lost. And the reason they lost was they underestimated the fight that was still left in the country. Just about enough fight to swing a 52% majority, but enough to defeat the left nonetheless. So, had they waited another 4 or 5 years, they would have had hundreds and hundreds of thousands of further guaranteed votes from millennial school leavers and college graduates whose liberally focused education was still fresh in their minds before reality and real life kicked in and mortgages and bills and work basically woke the idiots up. So the left's arrogance not only cost them the vote, but has also left the country in a mess, because that very same arrogance caused them to refuse to believe they could lose, and therefore basically refuse to make any plans to how to tackle and go through a Brexit just in case the unspeakable, unthinkable happened and they did lose the vote. Well, they did lose it. So Brexit won. But did Brexit really win? I mean, what's it going to achieve? What has it achieved? As far as I can see, the only achievement will be the removal of some power from one bunch of idiots in Brussels and handed over to an even bigger bunch of idiots in London, who will then have all the power and all the control with which to run this country. Now, based on the last 2.5 years of flapping around and not having a clue, that's a scary prospect. Now, one of the reasons that a lot of people said they voted for Brexit was because they were tired of hearing about all these laws that were being forced upon us by Brussels, mostly to do with political correctness and health and safety issues, etc. But the thing is, most of our British MPs agreed with these, embraced these new laws, made some up themselves, caused them to happen, and caused this political correctness to descend upon us. So, do you really believe that just because we voted for Brexit and we're going to come out of Europe, that all of a sudden these lily-livered liberal politicians are all of a sudden going to start taking a hard line on these matters? It's not going to happen. So, if that's the reason why you voted for Brexit, you basically wasted your vote. Because the truth is, there hasn't been a politician in this country with a pair of balls since Margaret Thatcher. Now, you're in the trenches or your back's up against the wall and the chips are down. Would you wish to have the likes of Tony Blair or Gordon Brown or David Cameron or William Hague or Ian Duncan Smith or Jeremy Corbyn? Would you wish to have men of that ilk stood by your side in that situation? Or would you rather have a Margaret Thatcher or a Vladimir Putin stood beside you in them troubled times? I know which one I'd prefer. Another major reason that people who voted to leave gave is because of the immigration situation in the UK. British people tired of decades and decades of immigrants being allowed to come into the country unchecked, to basically to the point where the place is overpopulated. But what I say to them is, this is why I say that Brexit has come 20 years too late, because the immigration issue is here. It's happened. I mean, that horse has bolted. It's happened. It's here. It's always going to be here. It's hardly going to improve just by being out of Europe. So, again, if that's why you voted for Brexit, have you wasted your vote as well? Now, I didn't vote for or against, but a part of me wishes that I had voted. A part of me wishes that I had voted for Brexit just so that I could sit here and take even more pleasure out of the bitching and the bitterness and the moaning of the Remainers. But a part of me also wishes I'd voted to remain, because the truth is, I'm terrified at the idea of them idiots in Parliament running our country unaided and unvetted for the next 20 years. But the truth be told, whether we're in or out of Europe, I don't believe it's going to affect me, because I believe, like a huge percentage of this country, I'm still going to be way down in debt. I'm going to be working 45, 50 hours a week and taxed to the hilt to pay for others. And I'm going to be spending 4 or 5 hours in a hospital at night with my child, waiting to be seen by a doctor. I'm going to be driving home from work and having to spend 2 hours driving a 15-minute drive. All because of this country and this government, and I don't think Brexit's going to make it any better. It's certainly not going to give our government any more common sense, is it? So for me, Brexit or no Brexit, who gives a shit? Right, till next time, feel free to comment, share and subscribe. Take care.